Losing a spouse is a shock, not only because of the pain, but also due to the overwhelming important decisions that arise when the mind is unprepared. In moments of loneliness and confusion, many people make seemingly harmless mistakes that later lead to regret. Below, we will help you identify 5 things to avoid in order to prevent the pain from becoming even heavier. Don't rush into major financial decisions. After a loss, many feel an urge to regain control of their lives by immediately addressing financial matters. However, this rush often leads to mistakes that are difficult to correct. In the confusion of grief, the mind is not clear enough to make sound choices, which is particularly dangerous when it comes to money, assets, or property. Many people around you, even with good intentions, may advise you to deal with it early to ease your mind, such as selling the house, reinvesting, or dividing assets. However, if these pieces of advice are followed too soon, they can create gaps not only in your finances, but also in your soul. The story of 74-year-old Margaret is a perfect example. Wanting to reduce the material burden and start fresh, she sold the house she and her husband had shared for 40 years. But just months later, regret began to consume her. The memories, the familiar neighbors, and the warmth of the old home couldn't be replaced by a cold new apartment. Moreover, we cannot overlook the external risks. Financial scammers often target the newly widowed, people who are vulnerable, trusting, and eager for help. Attractive investment opportunities, contracts that need to be signed urgently, or charity funds that need your help could all be dangerous traps disguised as genuine concern. Therefore, allow time to soothe the initial emotions of loss. Experts often recommend the 1-year wait rule, meaning you should wait at least 12 months before making any long-term or irreversible financial decisions. This is not a sign of weakness, but a necessary pause for you to listen to yourself. Are you acting with reason, or just filling the emptiness? Financial matters, if handled at the wrong time, can become a long-lasting burden. But with patience and careful timing, you will have the strength to build a stable future without paying the price of tears or regret. Don't isolate yourself from loved ones. After losing a spouse, the feeling of emptiness and pain can make you want to be alone. Silence can sometimes be a temporary remedy, allowing you to retreat and dwell in your grief. It may seem like being alone is a way to cope, a chance to process your emotions without the need to explain them to anyone. The solitude can feel like a protective cocoon that shields you from the outside world. However, when loneliness lasts too long, it no longer becomes a safe refuge, but rather a silent trap that pulls you deeper into sorrow with no escape. It's natural to crave peace and quiet in such a time of profound loss. But when you completely shut yourself off from others, whether friends, family, or even neighbors, you risk falling into a spiral of depression that can be difficult to break free from. Isolation may seem comforting at first, but in the long run, it can make the grieving process feel even heavier. It becomes harder to manage your emotions when you're not supported by those who care for you, and the burden of grief can feel far too heavy to bear alone. Human connection, even if brief, can offer a small sense of relief and remind you that you are not alone in your suffering. Think about the story of 78-year-old Mr. Walter, for instance. After his wife passed away, he completely cut himself off from others. No phone calls, no gatherings, no sharing his feelings. He convinced himself that no one would be able to understand his pain. The isolation made him feel as though he was carrying the weight of his sorrow all by himself. But one day, a neighbor invited him for coffee. Although Mr. Walter was initially hesitant, over time, these small, simple moments of connection helped him realize that his grief didn't have to be carried in isolation. The pain didn't disappear, but he no longer felt as if he were shouldering it alone. Connecting with others doesn't necessarily mean you have to dive into social events or attend large gatherings right away. Sometimes, simply answering a phone call from a loved one, sitting in silence with a close friend, or even going for a walk with someone can have a powerful impact. These small actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but they can provide emotional comfort when you feel like you're drowning in loneliness. Another common mistake many people make during the grieving process is assuming that others cannot understand their pain. As a result, they might avoid even their closest friends or family, thinking that they are the only ones who truly understand what they're going through. But what if you don't need them to understand every part of your grief? Sometimes, all you really need is for someone to be there, to listen, to be present, and to walk alongside you. The simple act of showing up for you can help lighten the load, even if it feels like they don't have all the answers. Additionally, reaching out to people who are also grieving, whether through support groups, online communities, or in-person gatherings, can provide a sense of understanding that is hard to find elsewhere. People who have experienced similar losses often offer deep empathy, and sometimes a stranger who has walked through similar pain can help you open up more than someone who has never been through it. Sharing the experience with others who truly understand can ease the burden and make the journey through grief a little more bearable. Most importantly, remember this: you don't have to throw yourself back into the world too quickly, but don't close yourself off completely either. It's okay to take small steps. Open yourself up gradually to the people around you and allow others to offer their support. Connection doesn't erase the pain, but it can help you carry it with more strength and resilience. Personally, I believe that loneliness during the grieving process is inevitable. But if you allow it to dominate your life for too long, it can become an overwhelming weight. Staying connected with loved ones, even through small interactions or simple gestures, can help ease the sorrow. Sometimes all it takes is a short conversation or a brief moment of shared silence to make the pain feel a little more manageable. Let others help you through this difficult time, as they may provide the support you need to heal, even if they don't fully understand what you're going through. Don't forget to take care of yourself. The pain of losing a spouse not only hurts the soul, but also quietly impacts your physical well-being. During grief, many people unconsciously neglect habits that once helped them maintain their health. Skipping meals, disrupted sleep, and indefinitely postponing doctor appointments. Some even feel guilty for taking care of themselves, as if continuing their own life is betraying the one who has passed. However, the truth is that you cannot overcome the pain if you continue to let yourself deteriorate day by day. The body and mind are closely connected. When the body weakens, negative emotions are more likely to take hold of your mind. Look at the story of 81-year-old Mr. James. After his wife passed, he stopped cooking like he used to. The feeling of eating alone discouraged him. Fast food and canned food became his default choice. But just a few months later, he began to feel fatigued, suffered from chronic insomnia, and his spirits dropped significantly. Noticing her father's decline, his daughter gently encouraged him to return to simple, nutritious meals. A bowl of hot soup, a plate of boiled vegetables, and a glass of water, seemingly small. But these were unexpected mental medicine. Gradually, his health improved and his mood lifted. Many people think that when the heart is broken, the body can be neglected. But in reality, recovery always starts from the smallest things: a meal at the right time, a deep sleep, or a short walk in the early sun. These simple actions form a solid foundation to help you rise again. Along with physical health, don't neglect your mental health. Emotions like depression, anxiety, and emptiness, if not addressed, can silently become a heavy burden on your mind for years. Many people are afraid that seeking a psychologist is a sign of weakness, but the opposite is true. Actively seeking help is a sign of courage and a desire to continue living. Most importantly, remember this: the spouse you loved would not want to see you neglect yourself. They are no longer here to take care of you, but you can still do that for them. Taking care of yourself is not betrayal, but a way to preserve the love by protecting the life you both nurtured together. Start with the small things, and each time you choose to take care of yourself, it's also a message to your loved one who has passed: I am still living for both of us. Don't rush into a new relationship. After losing a spouse, loneliness can become a persistent obsession. Not just the feeling of emptiness, but the cold silence that spreads through every ordinary moment. In such circumstances, the desire to be cared for, to have someone by your side, is very human. However, this need, if not understood correctly, can lead you into a new relationship when you are not truly ready yet. A relationship that begins from an unhealed wound often carries mixed emotions: guilt, unconscious comparisons, and even self-blame. You might think you're starting anew, but deep inside, you are still seeking the presence of the one you've lost in the form of someone else. The story of 72-year-old Mrs. Barbara is a clear example. Just a few months after her husband passed away, she began dating a friend who was introduced to her. Initially, she felt warm because there was someone to have dinner with, talk to, and share ordinary moments. But as time went on, she realized that she was living with someone, while her heart still belonged to another. That relationship didn't bring happiness. It only reignited the emptiness in a different way, harder to name, but deeper. Another issue, rarely discussed but very dangerous, is that newly widowed individuals often become targets for those who exploit their emotions. These can be emotional predators, people who use their attention to gain financial benefit, or even friends and acquaintances who try to set them up because they think it's a good thing. When you are at your most vulnerable, any relationship that appears too quickly, demands too much, or seeks to control you should be seen as a red flag. This doesn't mean you must shut yourself off forever or reject the possibility of new love. Many people have found happiness again after loss, but these relationships come from a place of peace, not panic. When you've had the time to heal internally, when you've learned to stand strong on your own, entering a new relationship will no longer be about replacing someone, but starting something real. Don't be afraid to ask yourself, am I seeking affection, or am I trying to escape the pain? And be open to talking with trusted family, friends, or a psychologist if you feel confused. Don't let society, public opinion, or temporary loneliness rush you into a new emotional path. Love is sacred, and it deserves to begin from a healed heart, not from the broken pieces that haven't been put together yet. Personally, I believe that entering a new relationship after the loss of a spouse needs careful consideration. Sometimes we're simply seeking to fill the emptiness, but that doesn't mean we're ready to embrace new love. A new relationship can only be true happiness when we have healed and found peace within ourselves. Holding on to everything, sometimes holding on to the pain. When a loved one passes away, the items they leave behind are not just material objects, they are tokens of memory, love, and the time shared together. An old jacket, familiar slippers, a teacup they often used. Everything seems to carry their warmth and presence. Touching them brings affection. Seeing them evokes memories. Therefore, wanting to keep everything is a very natural reaction of the person left behind. However, there is a delicate line between preserving memories and being stuck in the past. Keeping everything, from clothes, the bed, to the position of objects, might make you feel like that person is still present. But if this continues for too long, it no longer becomes a tribute, but an invisible cage that prevents you from moving forward. Harold, 76, after his wife passed, kept everything of hers unchanged, from the slippers by the door to the shawl on the sofa. At first, he thought he was keeping her alive in that way. But as days went by in that unchanging home, he felt more and more burdened. Not because he had forgotten her, but because this way of keeping things made the pain present every minute, every second. There was no room for healing. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It's a conscious selection to keep what truly holds deep meaning and to let the rest go gently. You might start by keeping a few special items, a handwritten letter, a notebook, or a keepsake piece of jewelry. Then, slowly consider the remaining items. Which ones can be gifted, shared, or repurposed with love? Some people even seek creative ways to memorialize their loved ones, turning an old shirt into a quilt, creating a photo album, or writing stories tied to each item. When you turn your memories into positive actions, they no longer feel like a burden, but a source of strength. It's also important to note that no one has the right to rush you to clean up too soon. Letting go should happen at your own emotional pace, not according to someone else's schedule. However, don't let yourself feel guilty if one day you want to rearrange things. Love is not measured by the number of objects you hold on to, but by how you continue to live fully, carrying the memories in a peaceful and natural way. Letting go doesn't mean leaving the deceased behind. It means creating space for you to breathe, to live, and to continue loving them in a different way. Losing a spouse changes everything, but avoiding these 5 mistakes will help protect your mental and physical health. Rushing into financial decisions. Isolating yourself. Forgetting to take care of yourself. Starting a new relationship too soon. Holding on to everything without letting go. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means living with memories with strength and peace. Moving forward doesn't mean leaving the deceased behind, but living a meaningful life that they always hoped for you. What lessons have you learned from this video? Share your story in the comments. If you found it helpful, give a heart, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.